Hi, I'm Kimberly with Fat Quarter Shop, and we have been so honored to have Lisa Bongean in our studio, and I always love to see what my favorite quilters use because every time my friends come, their basket is always different. So show me some of your favorite notions.
All right, to start off with, obviously my favorite notion is fabric, right? Everybody's. And I especially love the charm packs that we have from Moda, and I love them so much that I decided to create some triangle paper especially for a charm pack. You would put a light and a dark charm pack together, put the paper on top and stitch, and you have perfect triangles.
And so you also love starch.
It just, fabric performs so much better when it is starch as far as piecing, and the outcome of your quilt is raised phenomenally when the fabric is pre-starched. The Roxanne glue, I use these when I attach a sleeve to every one of my quilts. I have to do that because they obviously hang in the quilt shop or go into shows. Then the next one, my favorite for all-time marking, is this liquid white marking pen from Clover, and that is, it's very cool because it doesn't brush off. In order to get it off, you'd have to steam it off. So when working and stitching, it doesn't brush off and it's always there. Then the next one is this little nippers here, and I use that alongside my sewing machine. I actually have a magnet that I actually attach to my sewing machine, and that goes right on the magnet. Then the next one is my 5-inch Dovo scissors, and to me this is a Cadillac of scissors. It's nice, it's beautiful for one, and it's nicely weighted. It's not real heavy, so I can cut for long periods of time without any stress on my hands, and that's one of the big reasons why I really like that one. The next one is a Clover Hera marker, and that is for marking quilts. What you do is you kind of score your quilts and make an indent instead of using a marker to mark on or something that you're putting into it. So it's very reasonable because it doesn't cost any money and you can keep using it over and over again, and you would mark using a ruler for like straight line quilting, and that's one of the things that I do on a lot of the little quilts. All right, a few more notions. My favorite needles for binding, straw needles, number 9 or number 11. I use both sizes. I obviously do a ton of wool applique, and my favorite needle that we package at Primitive Gatherings is the 24 chenille needle. For thread, my favorite thread of all time is the 50 weight 1140 Aurifil that I use for piecing. Mostly, probably 95% of the quilts I make, that's the thread that I use, so I buy it on that giant cone instead of this cone. This thread here is the 40 weight Aurifil, which I will use in several colors for the binding to match. And I like to use a little bit stronger thread for the binding because that takes a little bit more abuse when the quilts are being used. A lot of my quilts have scrappy fabrics, and so I like to use the monofilament smoke colored, and that seems to blend. It doesn't have any color to it at all, and it just sinks right in the quilt, and it's basically invisible. My final thread is Valdani threads, number 8 weights or number 12 weights used for the wool applique. Couple more notions. The binding clips are wonderful. As I stitch, the longer I stitch, my hands get a little bit sore. When I'm stitching binding, they seem to work a little bit more to pull around my binding, so the clips seem to help a lot with that. And then the pins are my favorite pins for when I have to pin my patchwork pieces, a glass head, extra fine pin. And now the essentials. My favorite rotary cutter is this big 60mm cutting tool. I just love to cut layers at a time, so that's the reason why I keep using the big one. Then my favorite ruler is the 8.5 by 24.5, and I just love the new markings that they have on with the halves in the black and the standards in the white. Then I also have my 2 favorite little rulers, which are ones I designed. Of course I would like those, right? This one here, both feature dashed lines instead of solid lines like the normal ruler has. So this allows me to see my fabric at every point, no matter where it is, and gives me better access to see the fabric. And all my rulers are creative grids, and I absolutely love the markings on those. Dream Cotton is my favorite brand of batting. I love the different weights it comes in. My favorite are the Request and the Select. Then Steam-A-Seam 2 Light is my fusible web of choice, used mostly in my wool appliques, but sometimes I do some cotton wool applique like we did in the snowflake pattern. Then to store my fabrics, I use these fabric organizers, and they keep all my cool Moda fabrics nice and organized, and I can see them all at one time. Then the tape used to make my bumper to stitch up against, how to get your scant 1/4 inch correctly. Then my little rotary cutter, I use this along with my fusible web because fusible web is rough cut. It's not cut precisely on the line. So to save time, I will use my rotary cutter to cut them out quickly. Then the C-bands, while in the car, I'm able to do binding, hand stitch, read, go on my phone without getting any motion sickness. And the C-bands are miracles. I don't know really how they work, but they do. Then the mother iron holds a ton of water. You never have to keep filling your iron because you're using lots of steam when you press. So this iron is well worth the money that we spend for it. It has, my favorite part of it has a lot of steam holes on the bottom of it to get a ton of steam to make our fabric piecing much more enjoyable.
And you have this white.
Oh yes. That is called the Beam and Read, and she has it on 3. Let's put it on 6. So when you're reading or when you're in a hotel and you're stitching and you don't want to bother anybody, if you have roommates, this is a perfect light. You don't need any other light on. It shines directly onto your stitching, and I don't bother anybody when I'm trying to sneak in a few stitches in the early morning or in the late night.
Comment below and let us know your favorite notions, or on Instagram, tag @FatQuarterShop or @Lisa Bongean so we can see your favorite sewing notions and your sewing room.